Welcome to the building level training for the Smarter Balance Assessment. In this training, we will work to understand the different parts of a Smarter Balance Assessment, understand test security and reporting test security incidents, and how to use the test delivery system as a student and as a teacher. The ELA portion of the test is split into three parts: a computer adaptive test, known to us as the non-performance task, a classroom activity, and a performance task. The classroom activity for ELA is administered in approximately a 30-minute session and should occur 1 to 3 days prior to the performance task. The performance task is split into two parts. One is for research and one is for writing. It may be taken in 1 or 2 sessions. The math portion of the Smarter Balance Assessment is also divided into 3 parts. The classroom activity for the math portion of the test, unlike ELA, may occur on the same day as the performance task. The performance task for math is administered in 1 session and has only 1 part. Test sessions will be scheduled in the following way: computer adaptive test, also known as the non-performance task, the classroom activity, and the performance task. Smarter Balance has also provided us with practice and training tests. Practice tests are similar in format and structure to the Smarter Balance assessments, while training tests provide students with an opportunity to quickly become familiar with the software and interface features that will be used in the Smarter Balance assessments. Simply put, practice tests are intended for practicing with the types of problems on the Smarter Balance assessments, while training tests are intended for use of practicing with tools. Universal tools, designated supports, and accommodations have been made available in both practice and training tests. If a student has masking as an accommodation, for example, the best way to practice simply with the tool is to use it in a training test scenario. The practice test will give the student the opportunity of not only practicing with the tool, but also answering the problems that are similar to the Smarter Balance assessments. If a student just wants to practice with the tools of the test, the most appropriate test to use is a training test. Now let's take a look at where to access practice and training tests for the Smarter Balance assessment. Instead of heading to our Chromebooks, I'm going to open the browser bar for the Connecticut Smarter Balance Assessment portal. The extension that you will type in is ct.portal.airast.org. Now, normally in this screen, I would be visiting test administrators and teachers. But for the purpose of taking just a practice or training test, I'm going to go to the right-hand side to this button, Practice and Training Tests. I'll click on the button that takes me to Practice and Training Tests, and it will ask me to log in as a guest user. I will select the grade level that I want to take a test for. And I now have the option of choosing training and practice tests. Now, you were given a testing calendar and schedule in your test administration materials. During the weeks of testing, proctors will receive rosters, student tickets, and security reporting forms for each session that they proctor. Please note that practice tests will be given on the 22nd and 23rd of April to run through a full A and B day testing schedule. Students who are tardy to school during the testing sessions will be allowed to begin testing and complete their sessions in extended time locations. Let's now review Smarter Balance assessment testing procedures. You will note that in the top right-hand corner of the screen, there is yellow text that indicates handouts in your test administration materials. Please reference those handouts as we continue through the remainder of this presentation. You also have a test administration manual. Pages from that manual will be referenced throughout this presentation and please note them in the test administration manual for easy reference during your testing sessions. Let's now look at test security, known as improprieties, irregularities, and breaches. Breaches of test security include, but are not limited to, analyzing or copying test items, coaching students, giving students answers and/or changing students' answers, allowing students access to digital, electronic, or manual devices, except approved accommodations, and unauthorized login to the test delivery system. Cell phone use by students is prohibited in testing rooms. Cell phones will be turned off and collected. This is important for security and for the building's internet capacity. Even phones that are put in airplane mode will draw from the building's wireless system and may interfere with testing on the Chromebooks. School staff are responsible for test administration and should be responsible for the following: maintaining a secure testing environment, making sure printers are secure so that all materials printed to them are also kept secure, securing test materials and student information, maintaining security of usernames and passwords, and reporting potential test security incidents. You can find additional information about test security in your test administration manual on pages 10 through 13 and page 61. Please note those pages for future use during test administration sessions. Now, the classroom activity during the test should be administered no more than 3 days before the performance task. It will last approximately 30 minutes and is designed to level the playing field or provide adequate background knowledge to ensure that all students understand the context of the task. It is administered in a classroom setting. Topics and scripted classroom activities are available for download in a system called Tide and will also be provided in PowerPoint and a printed script for you for the day of the classroom activities. Students should proceed with testing even if the classroom activity was not provided. This is reported as a test irregularity. Students may take the performance task portion of the math and ELA test without having the classroom activity. Now let's take a look at the system of Tide so that you can see where you can access classroom activities at this time. Now in this interface, normally I would be going to test administration. For the 22nd and 23rd of April, I'll be going to the TA Practice and Training site. But to access classroom activities, I will go to a system called Tide. Tide is the test information and distribution engine. Normally, it would ask for my login, but because I have already logged in today, you will notice it directed me to this page without having to log in first. Please note that when you log in multiple times in a day, it will save your login and immediately direct you to test administration materials. Please keep your computer secure during the testing window. Now at the top of the screen, I can manage information for student users and also teacher users. There are many tools that I have in this site, but the one that I am most concerned about is the classroom activity. At the top of the screen, I will click on that button. You'll see that it populates with information for Bristol Eastern High School, and I'm going to show classroom activities. They are provided for grades 9 through 12, but I am most concerned with classroom activities for grade 11 in ELA and in math. By clicking on these buttons, you can open up PDFs for those classroom activities. They provide you with the scripts that you will use on the day of that classroom activity in your classroom. Now during the classroom activity, students will be able to talk with each other about the material you are presenting and write information down. All test items used during the classroom activity must be collected and inventoried at the end of the test session. Please return them to your test administration folder and give them back to your building's test coordinator. They will be shredded immediately and not kept for future test sessions. The only scratch paper that may be kept for use during testing is the paper used during the performance task. Page 13 of your test administration manual further addresses the use of scratch paper during the classroom activity and the performance task. If students take paper notes during the performance task, please ensure that students put their names on their papers and collect all notes from the performance task at the end of the test session. Students who need more time on the performance task for either math or ELA will be given back their papers used only for the performance task during the performance task. We will now return to the site we were just on to get a little bit more information about running a test session. You will notice when you try and log in to the Smarter Balance site, a pop-up blocker may appear on your computer. You have been provided instructions in your test administration materials that tells you how to disable a pop-up blocker on the browsers of Mozilla Firefox and Google Chrome. I don't recommend that you use Internet Explorer for this test, as it is an older browser and may not communicate well with the Smarter Balance assessment. Now, the test delivery system is in two parts: a test administration and a student interface, and an operational and practice and training test site. For the remainder of this presentation, we will focus on giving summative assessments of the SBA. You will see in your test administration manual that on pages 36 through 42, you are provided a script for administering the test. That script will also be printed for you and given to you in your test administration materials for use during your performance task and non-performance task sessions. Now let's take a look at how to activate a summative test session. I will return to where we went before by clicking on Test Administrators and Teachers and the Test Administration site. It will ask me to log in and bring me to a screen that looks like this. Now you will notice in this screen that I can start a test session by choosing a category for the test and searching for the appropriate grade level. Now you'll notice that I chose Smarter Balance Summative Assessment CAT. That is the non-performance task and the first assessment that I will be giving. You will also notice that there are no assessments available for grade 11 at this time. The testing window for grade 11 opens on April 27th, and at that time you will be able to access grade 11 summative assessments. You will also notice on this screen that there is a session ID box in the top right hand corner. When you choose a test session and start that session, a session ID will appear in the top right hand corner of the screen. You will give that session ID to students in order to take the tests on their end. When the test is in session, you will see the following items on your screen. Students will populate in the bottom of the screen. You will be listed as the user in the top. You have access to help options, and this is also where you can log out of the system. As students are taking the test, you'll be able to monitor their progress, and at the end of the session, please make sure that you print the roster and return to your test administration folder and back to your building's test coordinator. Now, as students populate your screen, you will be asked to approve them. Please make sure that all students are signed into the system before approving all students. You may approve individual students if they sign on after everyone else. You also see that there is a button for editing details for specific students. This is most relevant for students with accommodations. For students with accommodations, their teachers who set those accommodations will approve their details prior to testing. As you are monitoring student progress, you may notice that students move very quickly through the test. If you are concerned about a student's progress on the test, you may pause his or her assessment, and the test administration manual gives you scripted instructions on how to have a conversation with students about their progress in a test session. As students are taking the test, you may pause their tests, but please do not stop a session until the very end. Stopping a session does not allow students to return to any previous pages of their test, but will allow them to return to the last page where they have blank items. At the end of a session, you may stop the session and then print the roster for those students. Now let's take a look at the student interface. Students will log into the test session using an air-secure test browser on either the logout screen of a Chromebook or the desktop of a PC. Students will sign in using the first name and the SSID given to them during the test session and the session ID you provide for them. Students will be asked to select the test that they will be taking. Please make sure that students select the appropriate test for the session that you are proctoring. Students will be asked to verify their test information. If they note that it is incorrect, please contact your building's test coordinator to troubleshoot this issue. Now, students have access to a variety of tools during their test sessions. You will notice that students can pause and end their own tests. If a student pauses his or her test without your knowledge, please have a conversation with that student about the pause restrictions we will review a little bit later. Ending a test session will shut down the student's ability to go to any previous items on the test. Please remind students of that fact during testing. You will also notice that there is a context menu on this screen. That is where students can access their tools for highlighting, flagging, and certain kinds of note-taking during each test session. Please answer students' questions about this screen as they arise during the testing session. You will also notice that students will see this screen as they are testing. After sets of questions, they will be alerted that they are at the end of a segment and will not be able to return to those questions. Please remind students during the test that when they reach this screen, they should review the questions they have previously answered. At the end of a test session, students who have flagged items will be asked to review those questions and proceed before submitting the test. Now, the pause rules, which are detailed on page 16 and page 60 of your test administration manual, are as follows. Tests that are paused for less than 20 minutes can be returned to, and all items will be at the student's disposal for modification. But if a test is paused for more than 20 minutes, the student will only be able to return to the last page with unanswered items. They will not be able to return to previous pages or change any answers on previous items. This is specific to the non-performance task. During the performance task, there are no pause restrictions. But please note that stopping sessions on both the non-performance task and the performance task will limit students' ability to go back to previous parts of the test. If a session ends, please log in and start a new session and provide students with a new session ID. If a student gets logged out of a test while the session is still active, the student's test has been interrupted. You may pause on your end and the student should log back in and rejoin the session. If forbidden applications are running during the test, then please consult the test coordinator for the building as the secure browser is not working correctly. If a student's test freezes, please force quit the browser and log back in. If you have further questions, you may go to your test administration manual or contact your building's test coordinator. Please note that this troubleshooting list is short at this time. As issues arise during testing, more information will be released to the proctors about troubleshooting specific items that arise during test sessions. Now, there are special populations testing with us at this time, and accommodations will be provided for all of them. All students have access to what are called embedded and non-embedded universal tools during the test. These are things like calculators, digital notepads, and the opportunity to take breaks and use scratch paper. Designated supports that are both embedded and non-embedded have been previously determined for specific students by teams of educators in the building. And finally, accommodations for students with IEP or 504 plans have also been determined by educators in the building prior to testing sessions. Any non-embedded accommodations are those that students do not have access to in the testing system. Those will be provided for the testing sessions that students have them noted for. All embedded accommodations are already within the system, but as noted, non-embedded accommodations are not in TIDE for universal tools, designated supports, and/or accommodations. Those materials will be provided for non-embedded accommodations at the time of the test. Other resources that are available are information about item type tutorials and multiplication tables. You have handouts about those two items in your test administration materials for you to reference as needed. Please remember that practice tests will be administered on the 22nd and 23rd of April. If you have any questions about this presentation or administering the Smarter Balanced Assessment, please contact your building's test coordinator and also visit your building's test coordinator at the end of viewing this presentation so that you can sign that you have received the training for the Smarter Balanced Assessment. Thank you very much and have a great day.